Happening. Hey everybody, I'm Keith and this is Adam, and we're going to spend some time talking about Terminator X. Adam, it's lovely
Keith,
to see you today.
Good to see you too. Today, I want to show you guys. Been getting a ton of awesome feedback on the Terminator X platform we just launched last week. So I wanted to take a little bit today and do an unboxing for you, show you what comes in the kit, answer some questions you may have. Already seen a lot of great questions on the forums, on Facebook about this, so I want to try and give everybody good information, give you the opportunity to ask me a couple questions about it that maybe I haven't gotten to on Facebook. So I'm going to open up so I can see the comments. I'm going to open this up on my page and then come over here and show you. So Terminator X is a all new platform for us. We kind of took what we've learned from the HP and the Dominator, and we took all that knowledge and kind of boiled it into this new ECU line. So we have a Terminator X and a Terminator X Max, and I'll show you kind of what the differences are there. So we have a brand new ECU. I've not opened this one yet. This is a Terminator X. This is the smaller of the two ECUs. So what this one is going to give you is it's going to give you control over your LS engine with a cable throttle body. And you can kind of see there how it compares in size to an HP. And then this bigger kit, this is a full drive-by-wire and trans control kit. We'll show you a full unboxing on this, but I'll pull the ECU out first. This is the Terminator X Max ECU, and it has all the same features as the Terminator X, except it gives you the capability of running drive-by-wire or trans control or both with your LS. One thing to note that I've seen people have asked, do you have to use the X Max ECU with drive-by-wire and trans control? The answer to that is no, you do not. So let's say you're going to upgrade at some point in your vehicle's life. You're gonna add a 4L80 trans, or you want to eventually go to drive-by-wire. You can buy the X Max kit and have the ECU that you need to do that in the future, but it does not mean that you need to be using drive-by-wire or trans. So the X Max is basically has 3 connectors on it, or I'm sorry, the X has basically 3 connectors on it. The X Max has 5. This is your main battery connection. These 2 connectors plug into your main harness, and then this little tube hanging out is connected to the map sensor. The one thing that we did on the Terminator X series of ECUs is we added a map sensor on board. This is a 1-bar map sensor, and your kit comes with this little bag, and inside this little bag is going to be a weld-on O2 adapter, and then you're also going to get these various sizes of quick turn adapters. So what you'll do with these is find a vacuum source, or find a source on the intake manifold that goes with the plenum, hook a hose up to it, and then choose the appropriate size fitting, and this is a quick quarter turn connect there. So all you naturally aspirated guys and nitrous guys, you're going to use the map sensor that's on board here right now. One of the big reasons we did that is so there's no question about the map sensor on potentially your junkyard takeout engine. You got a brand new map sensor on board here that's tested and calibrated, so that's what you're going to want to use. Now for your boosted guys, one of the biggest questions I've seen online is, does the map sensor take up one of the 4 inputs that these boxes have? The answer to that is no, it does not. We use the same tried and true harnessing that we've used with the Holley HP and Dominator ECUs for years. This is a super high quality harness, and you'll see in this mess, if I can locate it here, there is a map sensor connector. It's right here. This is a connector that comes on the harness. The map sensor, an external map sensor, has a dedicated input to the ECU, so it does not use one of the four custom inputs and outputs that these ECUs have. So for all you guys that were worried about having to use an input up for an extra maps or your external map sensor, don't worry about it. It plugs into this harness.
So it'll plug right into this harness.
Yep.
Into that plug. If this plug doesn't work, you can use an adapter.
Yeah.
Or you can cut these wires, pin a new adapter or a new
exactly.
plug
So
on.
we sell an adapter to adapt to the like LS3 style map sensor here. It's part number 558-416, I believe. That'll plug in here and adapt to your adapt to like your 2.5 bar ZL1 style map sensor.
And is there a limit to the map sensor that you could run?
No. So the way these are set up is out of the box. Your naturally aspirated guys use this map sensor I talked about. Boosted guys, if you want to create a base cal through the wizard, which we'll show you here in a little bit, that is essentially a no laptop required base calibration, you're going to want to use the 2.5 bar map sensor that's outlined in the instruction manual that comes with this. You can find this online if you haven't read it. There's a lot of good information in here. If you're going to use something other than that 2.5 bar, say you want to use a 5 bar, you can certainly do that. You're just going to have to go into the software and select a 5 bar instead of the 2.5 bar. So pretty easy. The another thing too, and I'll show you in a little bit here. When you run the wizard through the handheld and create a base calibration, it automatically takes that entire calibration and saves it to the SD card. So you guys that do want to change your map sensors, you don't have to create a base cal just so you can change the sensor. You can use a base cal that the wizard that we've kind of created for you and change the map sensor in it, and then go on with your business. So anyway, to further expand on this harness, and I'll get these ECUs out of the way here. You'll see that we have connections for TPS, throttle position sensor, fuel pressure, idle air control motor. Had a few questions that I've seen. Can this be used with cable-driven throttle bodies? Yes, it absolutely can. Here's your connectors for those. Again, you're not using an extra input or anything for your TPS. It's already there. Saw another question a little bit ago on the Terminator X Facebook group and asked if you could use a 4-barrel throttle body, basically air valve, with a multi-port intake manifold. Answer to that is yes, you can. What you'll do is you'll take this TPS connector, this IAC connector, and you'll plug it into the Holley 4-barrel throttle body. But anyway, this harness is essentially a plug and play for your LS. This particular one's a 58X. So you're going to see down here at the one end, got a cam for cam sensor plug-in, TPS fuel, coolant temperature, IAC, manifold air temp, and then your ignition connector. So this will go to your odd bank of coils. You'll notice that everything on this harness is labeled, so it's very easy to plug everything in. We have heat shielded crank connector, knock on the even side, knock on the odd side here. Then you have your ignition connector for the even side of the engine. Here's the map sensor connector we were talking about a little bit ago. You want to notice on these, you have two eyelets here. These are for the grounds for the coils, well, part of the grounds of the coils. These get connected to the cylinder head. That's an important step there. Sometimes it gets missed. Injector connector. So with these kits, with this particular kit, this is an EV6 kit. So we provide an injector harness that plugs in right here. And again, these are all labeled, heat shrink labeled, with the cylinder number that they go to. And moving on down the harness, you have wideband connector. This is one place where the Terminator X differs from the HP and the Dominator, and that is in wideband. So the Terminator X uses a Bosch 4.9 wideband O2. It's kind of their latest generation sensor. The HPs and the Dominators use a Bosch 4.2 or an NTK. Because of that, or because the Terminator X uses a 4.9, we've made this adapter harness. So this will plug directly into the wideband connector, and then it will adapt to the connector on your Bosch 4.9 sensor. Now, another question I've seen a lot of people asking about is, what wideband does it support? This supports a Bosch 4.9 only. Does not support an NTK, does not support a 4.2. Worth mentioning there is the HP and the Dominator does not support a 4.9, so don't buy one of these in this adapter harness thinking you're going to use it with your HP or your Dominator. It won't work. So this 4.9 is Terminator X only. We also use it on the Sniper. Then moving on down the list on this harness, you'll see we have some loose leads, and again, all of this is outlined in the instruction manual if you want to look. But you have loose leads here. Basically, are a fuel pump output. This one connects to battery, and then I believe this is the TAC output. Inputs and outputs. So one of the biggest questions I have seen is on the inputs and outputs of these boxes. The Terminator X comes with 4 inputs and 4 outputs. The Terminator X Max comes with 4 inputs, 4 outputs. They don't have any more, they don't have any less. There's been some question in the past, the way the Dominators work, if you're not utilizing drive-by-wire or trans control, you can reconfigure some of your unused I/O to do other stuff. That is not the case on these. To get costs where we wanted to on this, we had to do away with some of the multi-function pins that we had on the Dominator, and as a result of that, these extra connectors for drive-by-wire and trans, that's all they're for. There are no extra inputs, no extra outputs on those. The 4 inputs and outputs you do have will connect right here, and we've also provided a input and output harness that comes with a length of wire here. So if you're wanting to use electric fans, if you need a trans brake input, if you want a nitrous pressure sensor, if you're using these for boost control, maybe you've got single or dual wastegates, you're going to connect all that through this harness here, the inputs and outputs. We also have a power tap that is new. Some of you guys may have seen this on the latest revisions of harnesses, but if you haven't, basically what this is it's a spot for you to be able to pick up on 12 volt supply, 5 volt sensor reference, a sensor ground, and a battery ground. This makes it really easy while you're wiring up your sensors here. If you need a 5-volt reference for a pressure transducer or something, you can simply tap in right here, and then you don't have to, in the past you kind of had to get into this loom and tap it in yourself, so we try to make that a little easier on everybody. Harnesses do come with a pre-installed fuse and relay. This relay is used to switch power to injectors, coils, fuel pump. And then this last bundle of wires you have here is power and ground hookup for the harness, and finally the ECU connectors. So like I said, all this is outlined in the instruction manual. It looks like a lot on table, but really this is a pretty simple plug and play harness. Again, everything is labeled, so you could literally plug this whole harness in on your LS in probably 5 minutes. So in addition to the main harness, you also get a battery harness. It is critical that for any ECU, not just Holley ECUs, but any ECU, that your main power and ground go directly to the battery. Your battery is your best source of noise suppression, so using this going directly to the battery, like we have outlined in the instructions, is a must-do. This kit also comes with the drive-by-wire harness and the transmission harness. Keith, you want me to open these up?
Maybe we can talk about those later.
Okay.
That's pretty straightforward. They really just plug right in.
Yeah, they do. They literally plug right into the extra connectors here. What's that? Yeah. So in our we have 2 manuals online. We have the printed manual that comes with the kit is kind of a quick start manual. We also have a reference manual on all the product pages that will go over supported drive-by-wire throttle bodies, injectors, pedals, kind of give you all the information that you need on that. Then the final piece that comes in this kit is the handheld. So the handheld is what you're going to use to create base calibrations for this. It's going to be your data logger. It's going to be your tuner. It's going to give you a lot of information, and it plugs into the main harness right here. So you'll see by the relay and fuse, which this is normally going to be inside your car, this part of it, unless you mount the ECU outside, is going to plug in right here, just like that. Speaking of mounting, if you're going to mount these in your engine bay, you want to make sure that you can read the label. If you're going to mount it on a vertical surface, you want to make sure you can read the label, basically LEDs up. The reason for that is if it gets wet, moisture can collect here in between the wires. These are sealed and waterproof, but still doesn't mean that you can't get some moisture sitting around places. So if you have this thing mounted like this, it's going to minimize that. Had a few people ask what that is right there. That is a vent. There's a piece of Gore-Tex on there to keep water from going into it, but it lets moisture out. As we mentioned, I think on the forums, these ECUs, unlike the Dominators and the HPs, are not potted. They are coated, but they're not potted. So the ECU, you can see a Dominator. Basically what this is an aluminum casting. The board goes inside of it, and then this epoxy potting goes all around it. What we did on the Terminator X is we've gone to a 2-piece enclosure. You can see it's split. The board attaches inside of there, and then we use a conformal coating to protect the board against vibration, environmental stuff like water and ozone and things like that. But look here and see a couple questions. Mark, if you buy the Max, can you run drive-by cable and manual trans, upgrade to drive-by-wire and electronic translator? Yeah, absolutely you can. Is a computer required to set this up, or can it be handled by the handheld? Computer is not required. Everything can be done through the handheld. Here shortly, we're going to go over to this test stand and plug in an ECU, walk you through the wizard and the base calibration process, and show you just how easy this is. Harbor Freight for the win on the Holley display. You got it. Let's see, what else we have here? Will I be able to keep my odometer gauges, or do you have to get a digital dash? Yeah, you can definitely keep your odometer gauges. You may run into an issue, you know, the EFI system has to have, for instance, coolant temperature. We have to have coolant temperature as an input to this box for closed loop and learning and stuff like that. So you may have to put an extra coolant temp sensor in, one for the EFI system, one for your odometer, but you can definitely use both. Is the software available for download yet? We are hoping to have software up for you guys at the end of this week. If not, it's going to be Monday or Tuesday of next week. So keep your eye out. Keep your eye out for Facebook and on the website for that. What else? Power tap, Steve. I'm glad you like the power tap. We try to listen when people ask for stuff. We try to listen. So here's a good question. Will this function with the Corvette fuel pressure regulator? The answer is yes. So as most of you probably know, the LS world has kind of always been in this 58 psi range of fuel pressure, whereas, you know, the older TBI stuff I think was down 16, 18 pounds, something like that. All of the base cals, everything that we have set up on this system is intended for 60 psi, 58 to 60 psi. If for some reason you're not running that, say you're running 43 psi instead of 65, you can adjust that in the handheld. It's important to note that if you aren't running 60 psi, you need to tune that in the handheld here, and I can show you how to do that. The reason being is, you know, we have a expected pressure range that the injectors and fuel map are based off of. So when your actual pressure is different than what we're expecting, we need to be able to compensate for it. So the way to compensate for that is by programming the correct pressure through the handheld. Thanks for all the comments, guys. We're getting a bunch of good stuff here. See a couple of flex fuel questions here. Yes, you can definitely use this for flex fuel. It will use one of the 4 inputs that we have, but your flex fuel sensor is a frequency input, and we have a frequency input here. Actually, if you go and look on the Holley Facebook page or the YouTube page, Ryan Whitty did a video, I think a couple weeks ago, on flex fuel and how to set it up with your HP or Dominator. The same exact thing is going to apply to the Terminator X and the X Max. This has advanced tables in the I/O customization, like he showed in the HP and the Dominator systems. So when you guys get your hands on the software for this, you'll be able to configure it the exact same way. Which reminds me, Boost Builder. I've seen a ton of people ask about Boost Builder on this. This does not have the Holley V5 Boost Builder in it, but it does have advanced tables, which, to be honest with you, is a better way of doing it rather than a simple input box. And again, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Ryan did a video on how to set up Boost Builder functionality with an advanced table for HP and Dominator. That's going to apply directly to Terminator X and X Max. So again, go to the YouTube page, search on Facebook, and find Ryan's video on that, and you'll be able to do it with these. Michael, have you seen any other questions that I've missed or skipped over here?
Drive-by-wire and trans controls the Terminator X Plus.
Yep. Drive-by-wire and trans on Terminator X Max only. Use one or the other, or both, or neither. If you want to buy the X Max because you think you're going to go to drive-by-wire at some point in the future, you can certainly do that and just not plug the harness in.
And does Terminator X work with all the Holley EFI gauges?
Yeah. So Terminator X absolutely is going to work with the 7-inch dash and the 12.3 Pro dash. We will have firmware out for that likely next week. We're doing final validations on all that right now. So it's coming very, very soon. So if somebody has bought a 7-inch dash or is getting ready to buy a 7-inch or 12.3, hang tight. We got firmware coming for you here within the next 1 to 2 weeks.
So between these two, there's no reason to buy an X Max over an X unless you want to or think you may need to do drive-by-wire or trans control in the future.
That's exactly right. The number of inputs and outputs are the same between the two boxes. So if you don't think you're ever going to go drive-by-wire and you're not ever going to go with trans control, you can certainly just buy the X.
Yeah. Cool.
So other hardware differences between these and the HP or Dominators, the biggie is, especially for racers, the biggie is the high impedance injector drivers only. So these have 8 high impedance injector drivers only. So if anybody's thinking they want to buy this lower cost ECU and they're hoping to be able to use a set of atomizer 700s or 800s, this isn't your ECU. You need to go with an HP or a Dominator for those. But there's lots of options nowadays for really high flow, high impedance injectors. Well over 200 pounds per hour and high pressures. So that's really what these are intended for.
And there's no more than 8 injectors. There's no dual sets or.
Nope. This is 8 only. We had a specific cost target that we wanted to hit in the marketplace with this, and low impedance injector drivers are pretty darn expensive and everything else that goes along with them. So that was one area we had to cut. The good news is the HP and Dominator still the best bang for the buck premium ECU out there. For race cars and stuff. You guys need multiple injector sets, methanol, stuff like that. Go with the Dominator.
Will the nitrous purge function be the same as in the HP Dominator with EWM control?
Yeah, so the nitrous control on this is a single stage. It supports wet, dry, progressive, non-progressive. It has pretty similar functionality to Heffy. It's missing a few things, namely doesn't have as many general purpose outputs on it, but you're going to be able to do 98% of what a single stage nitrous user will need. Is going to be super happy with what's in this. It knocks the socks off of most of the standalone progressive controllers out there.
Secondary rev limiter.
Yeah, so it does have a 2-step in it. Actually has 2 rev limiters. We have a main over rev, so you can set max RPM that you want your engine ever to see. It does have a 2-step, programmable 2-step, so you can wire that up off of a trans brake input or whatever you want to do and have a 2-step. Also does have a launch retard. You can do that in the advanced tables too, but we do have a separate specific launch retard. You can actually set that up and adjust it in the handheld. That's one thing we added with Terminator X, or you can do it in the software. It can be RPM or time based.
Do we have any?
Holley low impedance injectors?
Yeah, no low impedance injectors. So the largest largest Holley branded injector, I believe, is 48 pounds per hour. I think everything that we have above that is low impedance. If you go to the reference manual that we have on the product pages, there's a listing of compatible injectors with this that we have in our line, and you can look at that and see what we have.
Do you address the dual wideband?
No, I haven't addressed dual wideband. So back to the trying to hit a target cost thing, these have one wideband. Anyone who's familiar with the Dominator, you're probably used to being able to add a second wideband onto that. That is not the case with the Terminator X. It is one only, Bosch 4.9.
There are multiple fuel tables for different kinds of fuel.
Yeah, so back on the flex fuel, the advanced tables, you can set up fuel offsets. You can do offsets based on pound per hour. You can do VE offsets. You pretty much do whatever you want in the advanced tables with this.
Are we ready for the run stand?
Sure, we can be ready for the run stand.
So, about an hour ago, this had an HP on it.
Yeah, and actually it still does.
Still does, right here.
Yep, still has the HP on it. We real quick kind of set this up for the video. I'm actually going to take another ECU and show this whole process from scratch with the Wizard. But before I do that, you can see we have the main harness plugged in. The map sensor adapter that I talked about a little bit ago. We've got a hose to the plenum on this intake, and it connects directly to our map sensor. Then this goes to the battery. Got our handheld. Handheld is actually daisy chained right now the way our setup is here, but we have the handheld plugged in. And then we have the Bosch 4.9 wideband sensor plugged into the main harness with the included adapter. So I'm going to take this ECU that we just pulled out of the box a little bit ago and show you what it's going to look like the first time you power your Terminator X on. So if you're new to EFI, if you've never done EFI before, you're going to love how simple this system is. Turn our switched ignition on, and you will see the handheld here. First thing you're going to get is a perform TPS auto set before startup. Well, that's wonderful because we haven't installed any tunes in this yet. So what you're going to get the first time this is powered up is you're going to get this main screen. You essentially have tuning, monitor, advanced features, logging, file, and wizards. The first place you're going to come to is the wizards section. I'm going to grab the stylus.
A question,
Yeah.
paddle shift input.
Paddle shift input.
Yeah. So obviously not 6L, but
Oh, paddle shift to 4L80. You know, off the top of my head, I don't remember. I should remember that, but I don't remember. Yeah. Whoever asks that, we will. When I get back to my desk and open up software, I'll look and let you know. I can't remember. So back to the handheld. The first place you're going to go, and again, all this is outlined in the instructions, is wizards. So what this is going to do is is going to ask you a few simple questions about your engine, and it's going to take your answers and it's going to generate complete calibration for your engine. So we'll start the wizard. Select a system type is multi-port. Number of cylinders is 8. Firing order of an LS. Here you have the options to enter your engine size in cubic inches or in liters. This engine's a 5.3, so make it a 5.3. We want it to idle at say 750 RPMs. I do want to mention target idle speed. That's a hot setting. So the way our strategy works, basically just like any fuel injected car, the colder the engine is, the higher it's going to idle, just to get engine temperature in it quicker. So this speed that you're setting right here is the target speed at 160 degrees coolant temp or above. Cam specs. So you have 3 options here, and it's helpful if you know what the camshaft is in your engine. If you don't, that's okay too, but we have some basic guidelines here. Selection 1 is anything that is below 235 degrees of duration at 50 thousandths. Number 2 would be 235 to 260. Number 3 would be more of a race cam, something above 260 degrees duration. This one's got a mid 230s camshaft, so I'm just going to select this. If you don't know what camshaft you have in your engine, just pick number 1. Good place to start. This engine is a Gen 3, so it's a 24X. This has a Holley 36 pound/hour injector in it. Power adder type. This has none, so we're going to choose none. And that's it. With just answering those few questions, we've created a calibration for this.
And it's
Sent it
just
to the ECU.
the handheld is just sent.
It just sent it to the ECU, correct. So we'll hit finish on that, and we'll cycle the key and turn it back on. You'll hear, I don't know if you can hear on the video now, but the fuel pump is now running. These have a built-in 5-second fuel prime, which is adjustable in the software if you want to. What that means is when you turn the key on, it's going to turn the fuel pump on for 5 seconds just to prime the system up. So if you haven't started the car in a while, just to build pressure in the rails and allow it to start easier. You'll see that we need to perform a TPS auto set next. So this is very, very simple. Basically, go back to the wizard, TPS auto set. This is make sure ignition is on and engine is not started, hit start. So slowly press pedal to the floor, then slowly release. Do this twice. So we're gonna open, close, open, close. TPS auto set was successful. Hit done, and you're basically ready to start the engine up. So what we recommend in the instructions is come here to your monitors, go to initial startup, and you can look at, just make sure your sensors are reading okay. TPS is at 0%, we're at 100%, so TPS is reading correctly. Map sensor is reading 101 kPa, coolant is 80, IAC is 88, battery reads good. You can view those on gauges too if you wanted to, but go ahead and hit the starter button on this thing, and with any luck it'll start.
There it is.
So that's, if you do everything properly, wire directly to power and ground on the battery, get all your connections in the right place, run the wizard correctly, that's how easy it should go for you. Again, this was, the goal for this is for somebody that's completely new to EFI to be able to take an LS, retrofit it to whatever your project is, get all the awesome benefits of EFI, without having to be an expert on it, really without even having to use a laptop. With that said, the software package and the cable that you can buy, we sell a USB to CAN adapter cable that allows you to live tune this ECU with software. Any of you guys that are shops, dealers, maybe you have a ton of experience with Holley EFI, maybe you have a ton of experience with a competitor's EFI system. The software package on this is quite impressive, and you're going to be able to pretty much do whatever you want with this, especially with all the advanced tables and everything. But this is going to handle a stock LS all the way through twin turbo race car sort of stuff. So
the self-tuning, so
yes,
that's the main function of this.
Yeah,
Can
so
you
we've,
go with that?
for sure. So self-tuning with Holley EFI, that's we're one of the earlier companies to do that, and we're still the best at doing that. Our self-learning strategy and closed-loop strategy is yet to be beat by anybody else that I've seen. How that works is the Bosch 4.902 sensor that we have installed in the exhaust system here. The base calibration has targets that we hit, so target air fuel ratios that it's supposed to hit. Has a full map, but basically there's idle sections, cruise sections, and wide open throttle sections of that map. So the ECU has a map that it's trying to target. It also is making adjustments to the fuel flow going into the engine to hit those targets. So it could be adding fuel, it could be pulling fuel out over the base map, could be doing all of that across the RPM range. And so what we do is we have a secondary map that learns and saves what the ECU is having to do through the operating range to hit and maintain those targets. So essentially, as soon as you get this thing up and running and it gets above 160 degrees water temperature, it starts populating the learn table. And you'll literally pull it out of your garage, and by the time you get to the first stop sign or first stoplight, you're going to notice a difference in how it runs. It'll be running better, and you can watch this closed loop compensation percentage and learn percentage. The learn is the amount of fuel it is adding or subtracting from the base fuel table. The closed loop compensation is how much how much it's doing real time. As the system learns, you'll see closed loop get closer to zero. So your learn's always going to be some number other than zero usually, but as it learns, the more it has learned, your closed loop will approach zero all the time when you're driving it, at least within plus minus 5%.
Now, some calls we have had before is users or customers will misunderstand that, and they think this learn percentage needs to get to 100% before it's done learning.
Correct.
That's not how that works.
That's not how that works. So it's that the way I say it is that learn percentage, that's not a progress bar. That's not a 0 to 100 like you'd see on your computer. That's literally the percentage that it has, the percentage of learning it, or percentage difference over the base fuel table that's in there.
So how much fuel it's either adding or taking out.
Correct.
That touch screen, if you didn't want to run that and wanted to do the whole startup procedure, everything with a laptop, could you do it that way as well?
You can. You're going to have to create a base cal. We have some base cals in there, but it's not nearly as expansive as the library that's in here. So you can certainly do that. What I would recommend is running through the wizard, building a base calibration with the handheld, and then using that calibration in the software to tweak from.
Yeah, modifying that file to make it work.
But again, if you're a Holley EFI dealer, do a ton of these things, already have known base cals that you want to run. Maybe you're a crate engine builder that you have your own base cal that you want to run. You can certainly use that. awesome thing about this is there is a SD card on the side of it, and it's it comes with an adapter too. Like my new laptop, I can't put the full size SD card in it, so it has a micro and a standard. When we ran that wizard, we'll go here to file. We ran the wizard, and you'll see here in global configs, we already have one in there. When you run the wizard, it's going to save that calibration automatically to the SD card when it loads it into the ECU. So there is no downloading or anything out of the ECU. You can take this SD card to your computer, open up the software when we get it uploaded next week, and start tweaking the cal.
So if you didn't want to bother with that communication cable or lost it or whatever, you can still laptop tune without it.
For sure. You're just not going to be able to live tune, but you absolutely do not have to buy the cable to be able to utilize the software. You just won't be able, if you need to live tune, you need to be able to plug your computer into the ECU, and that's what that cable allows you to do. But, you can store as many calibrations on this as you want. Say you take one of our base cals and you want to create a race gas tune or a drag strip tune, that's something like that. You can store multiple stuff on here and upload them to the ECU real quick.
So if someone maxes out Terminator X's capabilities and wants to upgrade to a HP or Dominator, can you, Devin asked this question, the global folder, can that be transferred over? Like, what does the process look like between?
No, what you would have to do is you would open up the Terminator X calibration and the Terminator X software, and then open up the Holley FI software and just copy paste. You can select entire tables and stuff and copy and paste directly into different software. So you can't open a Terminator X cal with Holley FI software. You'd have to copy. Data logging is handled on the handheld here, going back to hardware differences between the ECUs. There is no internal data logging on the Terminator X. All the data logging is handled through the SD card. What we did add, though, was the ability to set up triggers. So if you want to log anytime engine RPM is above 970 RPMs, just picking a number, save that. What that'll do is it will start a data log anytime RPM goes above 970 RPMs. It doesn't require you to go in and start and stop the log.
And you can trigger that with a lot of different things. Fuel consumption,
you come in here, I mean,
target AFR.
Got a huge list of stuff. TPS based. Most of you drag race guys are probably going to want to log that off of TPS, or maybe at the release of your trans brake you want it to start logging, something like that. The log on the handheld is going to be up to about 30 frames per second. A little bit of it depends on the entire system and what all you have configured and how. But you're going to get up to about 30 frames per second data logging direct to here, and then PC logging with the USB to CAN cable. Depending on how fast, how powerful your laptop is. I've got a fairly new laptop, it's pretty quick. I've seen as high as 50 frames per second doing a PC log. Some of your older stuff you may still be down around 25, 30 frames per second, but logging speed's pretty good on this.
Who would, you mentioned the self-tuning capabilities, as far as getting it like professionally tuned on a dyno, who would be most that geared towards? Like, is there a certain like capability, like threshold you would want to do that for? Or?
I would, the way the base cals and everything are set up on this, everything's set pretty safe for the naturally aspirated and the boosted stuff. It's always a good idea to test dyno tune your car or your engine if you have the opportunity to do that. If for no other reason, you can really optimize a combination by doing that. If you go to Holley's homepage, we have a dealer locator tool. You basically punch in your zip code, and it will show you EFI certified dealers around your area, and there's a ton of good ones out there. Some really, really talented people in shops. So, you know, what I would say is, you know, this is geared for somebody that has no EFI experience. But with that said, taking it someplace that does have a ton of EFI experience may show you some benefit. You know, you might get a little bit better power, a little bit better drivability, things like that.
There's a lot of questions about older like small blocks and older LTs like.
Yep. Well, the beauty of this platform is it's very expandable, and that was the goal. You know, we've been in the EFI game for a long time, so we certainly hear and understand everyone's questions and needs on that. I know the small block Ford guys have been begging to be able to use this with small block Ford. Just know that this platform is very expandable. The ECU is expandable, so keep an eye on our Facebook page, and you might be happy.
Your other question?
Yep. So.
You already talked about the software, right? People take a look at it.
Software's coming late this week, early next week. But that's it. It's really an awesome system for the money. There is nothing else on the market that can compete with the value of this kit. And the same engineering team, the same production facility that's doing the HP and the Dominator ECUs are doing these. You know, so same folks that are building NHRA Pro Stock or NASCAR Craftsman truck ECUs one day are building these the next day. So you know, it's a very high quality product.
When are these shipping?
Now they're on the shelf and shipping. They were on the shelf when we launched. So if you've put orders in, they're shipping out as quick as our shipping people can get them out the door. So there were some questions. I saw a couple questions. 24X with a EV6 connector. We're going to be releasing those kits here pretty quick too. So if you don't see exactly what you need for an LS combination on the website, hang tight. We've got some of those coming for you.
One thing we didn't cover, if you have one of those odd combinations that's like a 24X crank with a 4X cam sensor or vice versa, you can make that work, right?
You can. It's going to take a little bit of extending on the harness, but that will work. The strategy will work. We just don't offer a plug-and-play solution for that.
All right. On that bombshell.
Cool. Yep. So again, thanks for all the feedback on this, and keep it coming. We are reading the comments. You know, if you have requests, applications that maybe we haven't thought of, make sure you're posting them, because we do care and we appreciate everybody taking the time to you know, show their interest in this product. So
Built-in safeties. One last question.
Yeah.
So what safety options does this give you?
as far as safeties go, we have boost safeties. We have boost safeties. We have nitrous safeties. So on the boost stuff, it's instantaneous boost pressure. We also have basically there's two different levels of that. There's an instantaneous. So if you get a blip over whatever you set it at, say you set it at 40 psi, it'll cut ignition. We have a secondary one that has a programmable time limit on it. So if you don't want the engine over 35 pounds of boost for more than 0.8 seconds, you can have it do that, and then you can have it either revert to wastegate, or you can have it cut ignition. On the nitrous stuff, we have lean and rich safeties, and then through the advanced tables, you can pretty much set up any kind of safety you want. So if you want closed loop safeties or fuel pressure safeties or oil pressure or anything like that, you can very quickly and easily set up a timing retard or an ignition cut or anything like that. So
Is that it?
The ECU and the harness itself just comes as a kit.
Yep.
That I guess if someone has any questions about it, they could talk to our technical service.
Yeah, for sure. If there's stuff that we haven't covered here, definitely call up our tech service line. We've got a bunch of really great guys in tech service that are able to answer questions. Again, post them on Facebook if you want. Post them in the EFI, the Terminator X owners group. Can ask in there, and we'll do our best to answer whatever we can come across. So, thanks again.